All right, even by the standards, the low standards that have been set in this nuclear waste dump of a season for the Toronto Blue Jays, Kevin Barker, yesterday was
typical.
Typical. Yesterday might have been. Yesterday might have been, even by this team's standards, a brutal day. The Blue Jays, of course, you know by now, 6-5 losers to Cleveland. They've now been swept in 2 consecutive series. They've lost 6 games in a row, which happens quite often when you're swept in 2 consecutive series. They're 5 for 47 with runners in scoring position during that time. They now have, 6 teams between them and the final wild card spot. They're 6.5 back. And the team that currently holds down that final wild card spot is the Boston Red Sox. And lo and behold, that is who the Toronto Blue Jays play in a 3-game series beginning tonight. Now, you're probably taking all that in and going, well, Jeff, that sounds like any other 6-day span for the Blue Jays this year. Not entirely true, though, because in addition to that, Kevin Barker, and this is separate, understand this is separate from the tire fire we're seeing right now on the field. This is separate from that. Orelvis Martínez, their first, second, I guess, top position prospect closest to the majors, has been placed on the 80-day suspended list after failing a drug test, more accurately, a test for performance-enhancing substances that detected clomiphene in his body. Now, of course, he is claiming that it was an accident, that it's he ingested this substance as part of a prescription given to him at a fertility clinic in the Dominican Republic. He's not appealing it. It took me, 30 seconds to Google clomiphene or clomiphene, however you pronounce it, on the Google machine here. And right there it says it's on the prohibited list for the United States, the World Anti-Doping Agency, which is the same thing as Major League Baseball. So the bottom line is this: Orelvis Martínez, he ain't saving your summer, folks. He's not saving your summer unless you want to go down to the Florida complex to watch him take batting practice. Suspended for 80 days. He can conduct baseball activity at the Jays complex. Can't play in any games. Again, two separate issues. Because I know there are people that are going to sit there and go, Growl, I mean, everything's screwed up with this team. They got a bad culture, and oh, my God, they can't. Orelvis Martínez gets the blame for what happened to Orelvis Martínez. It's got nothing to do with Mark. It's got nothing to do with Ross. It's got nothing to do with John Schneider. It's got nothing to do with Casey Cantel. That is on Orelvis Martínez for not sending a text or making a phone call. Trust me, it's not that hard. I know I'm going to let you in here, Kevin, but I got
talk. You're doing well.
It's not that hard when you are given a prescription to call up somebody and say, yo, can I take this crap? Even if it doesn't work, because,
it's almost,
there's...
It's almost like he knew what he was taking. Yeah, look.
And the thing is, it's, again, if you read the drug, generally they give it to the woman for infertility, right?
Every time I've taken something that I didn't know what I was taking, I picked up the phone and I went, hey, I'm about to take this. Is this okay for me to take? And they would say yes or no. It was a real simple,
and you played
easy
back in
process.
The dark age.
Because I wanted to know what I was putting in my body. I played in some places that
of course you did.
You needed to know what you were ingesting.
And that's just the food.
It was never a good thing if you were popping things and you didn't know what you were taking. So, yeah, look, it's too bad. Like, the one little light at the end of the tunnel that you were thinking that offensively would would show you a little something, and maybe you could see him playing second base in 2025. I don't even know if that's gonna be a thing anymore. So
I couldn't see him playing second base.
Who cares if he can catch the ball right at you? Like, you know, you were yelling and screaming about the ball that he overran, and you know, he got in a hurry because dudes at the big league level are a little bit faster. They do everything a tick faster than they do at the minor league level.
You know as well.
After that, he was fine.
You know as well as I do that there are people on that staff who, and in that front office, who will tell you that Glove's not ready for the majors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's not the reason why he's up here. You know that. The reason why he's up here is because the last 2 off seasons, they didn't do anything to help their offensive side of the ball. So that's why he's up here. I mean, let's be honest.
Anyhow, it's not going to have any. It's not going to have any impact on the field this year, to be quite honest, because he was expected to be sent down once Bo Bichette comes off the IL. Ross Atkins, the general manager of the Blue Jays, and we should add, by the way, that Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro have an open invitation to come on here anytime. We've asked.
That's all we can do.
That's all we can do. Not going to force anybody on. We've asked with no luck so far, and that's certainly not for a lack of trying.
Yeah, we'll keep asking.
That's not for lack of trying on the part of the media relations staff. But anyhow, there we are. Ross Atkins did speak to the media yesterday, though, and he mentioned the word playoffs. Let's play the clip.
Going through your mind?
Yeah, it's been to be at this point has been a disappointment for everyone in the clubhouse. We are frustrated. We are disappointed as well. We know the fans' disappointment. We share that. And it has been a very difficult time when you have the expectations and you're not fulfilling them. I will say that what has been encouraging, as I've talked about, is in difficult times, life, professional sports, and my experiences in professional baseball, you'll see a lot of finger pointing, a lot of excuse making. And fortunately, we haven't seen that, which gives us the confidence that we can still get it turned around. We've over the last 5 days had a big setback and playing roughly 500 baseball until 5 days ago, and now we've dug ourselves into a little bit of a deeper hole. There's still time for us to get things turned around. It's dependent upon a win streak, obviously, but we're still capable of that. Again, frustrated, disappointed. I'm the most accountable for that, and that's what I feel. I feel, I look inward when I don't feel disappointment towards individuals other than myself, and collective disappointment we have.
So there you go. Ross Atkins taking accountability for the team being where it is right now. But Kevin Barker, again, whether or not you believe in, the playoff odds that Fangraphs post or whatever, I think it's someplace around 5 or 6% right now. There's nothing, with all due respect to Ross Atkins, I don't know what the hell he's seeing that suggests this team can go on a winning streak, unless I haven't looked at the schedule. Do they have a month where they do nothing but play Oakland and the Chicago White Sox? Other than that, I don't see a winning streak here.
Yeah, the next 14 games, they got 3 with the Red Sox, 3 against the Yankees, 4 against the Astros, and 3 against the Mariners.
The Astros, by the way, look like they've...
Well, they're 2 games under 500, and they're like 6 out of the West. They may win the West.
They look like they've righted the ship. They're just coming off a sweep.
Yeah, they're figuring out their pitching a little bit. They're going to make some moves, you would think, instead of selling some things. So, the Astros, I would think at the end of the season will be the Astros. So there's another team you got to compete against, not only when you're trying to probably make your team better at the trade deadline, you're trying to figure out, adding and subtracting and what you're going to do. The finger pointing, didn't I hear a couple weeks ago Kevin Gausman saying that if one side of the ball don't get it done, we're just not going to get it done? Isn't that finger pointing?
You took it that way. I didn't take it that way. I honestly didn't take it that way.
Basically, he said if the rotation is not perfect, we don't win baseball games. What? How is that? He said it in a very, very nice way, and the only way that Kevin Gausman can say it, and good for him. I'm sure maybe he said it differently when they were having their, meeting and got a group of people together that needed to hear it. But that's what I heard, and if I were on the offensive side, that's exactly what I would have heard. I would have heard him pointing the finger at the offensive side and saying that, you're not scoring more than 3 runs a game most of the time. So, You know, and if we don't hold them to 3 or fewer, we're not going to win a bunch of those games. Hey, look, right now, they're just the roster's not good enough. I mean, I think this is the first time all year that we can come on our show and say at this point in time today, the roster 1 through 26, I mean, they got a couple of guys, but for the most part, who would you want up there to have the biggest at bat? Who right now in the rotation would you want? I mean, Barrios is having a really, really good year, but he's had some starts where, it looks to me like he's aiming some baseballs and he's trying to keep the other team from scoring 3 runs. Like, it's just not the easiest thing to do. So just right now, it's, just there's a lot of holes, and I just don't know how you make up for that. And again, it's, you could say accountability, and I'm everybody that I've talked to when it comes to the coaching staff has tried to hold the players to whatever accountability that they can hold them to. And now it's up to the player to go out there and get it done. And again, this gets back to the everyday guys, right? It's just like those innings yesterday. The 3rd inning, 2nd and 3rd and 1 out. The Barger at bat, the Jansen at bat. They were not real good. The 5th inning with 2nd and 3rd, Jansen's at bat wasn't very good. Bases loaded with Kiermaier. That little lollipop line drive to right wasn't very good. Got a really good pitch to hit, didn't hit it where it was supposed to go. Vladdy, that non-competitive at bat, again, that was the Clase at bat at 101 miles an hour. The point is, when you have the guy up that you need to have up, the at-bats need to be better, and they're just not. So,
no, there was, you talk about the lineup. I think Arden made an interesting point. You look at now, this was before Orelvis Martínez was suspended, but there was a chance that the Blue Jays in games would have Horwitz, Barger, and Martinez all in the lineup. They're basically playing positions they've learned in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not to take anything away from Spencer Horwitz, because quite frankly, he has, other than getting picked off and making an error, I mean, he has offensively, he's been a bit of a going concern for the Blue Jays. 2 solo home runs yesterday, Vladdy with a 2-run homer. The day before, Schneider, IKF hits 2 home runs. They're solo. The biggest difference to me that I saw anyhow it seemed with the Guardians, Kevin, I look at Saturday's game in particular, they hit 4 home runs with men on base in that 6-3 win. I want to talk about the starting pitching, though, just very quickly before we move on. Not a great weekend for starting pitching. Yariel Rodriguez was not very good. Missed the zone with half his pitches, had 4 whiffs. He was, and that what they said, they had a 70-pitch inning, the first team to throw 70 pitches in an inning since the Tigers in 2014. That's hard to do, 70 pitches in an inning. Ferguson Jenkins used to take that to throw a complete game. That's beside the point. Jose Barrios, 5 earned runs in 6 innings, gave up 3 home runs on Saturday. Again, 51% of his pitches in the zone. We kept hearing about how he was going to use the cutter against left-handed hitters. I don't know if he threw the cutter at all in that game. And then yesterday, you say Kikuchi, there's a 40-minute rain delay that knocks both starters out of the game. But just on balance. And yesterday's game was, a bit of a mess. Both teams combined to go 3 for 24. There were 22 hits, 10 walks, 19 runners left on base.
Yep.
Yesterday's game was messy, but the Jays scored more than 3 runs in a game, and they lost. Like, it literally, nothing is falling in place for them right now.
Yeah, it's not, it's when one side is finally showing up and doing some things offensively, the other side's doing what it's doing. The Rodriguez thing you mentioned, right? It's fastball command a lot. It's throwing strikes with all of his pitches. When I talked to Pete Walker in spring training, this was expected. Like, this is, just the reality of him not pitching last year, not doing it at this level, not wanting to rush him. Now you've sort of had to because of what you don't have, where your team's at, where your organization's at. You're sort of trying to thrust a guy into situations that, quite frankly, maybe he's not ready for. Work in progress. The Barrios thing, mentally, physically, looks tired to me. Like, again, he's in elite shape. It just looks to me like when you're trying to force location, right, it's like the home runs that he gave up, he missed middle. It's rare that he throws the ball down the middle, right? I get the sign. I land in the same spot. I get the ball out front. My release point's the same. I don't ever think it. It just looks to me like he was trying to force it out of a certain zone, make sure his misses are good. When you aim baseballs, and especially when you're having back-to-back starts against the team that does the things offensively that Cleveland's doing right now, it sort of looks the way it looks. And you say a lot of the times as a thrower, not a pitcher. This is what you're getting from him, right? The velocity is on point. Like, whatever he's done mechanically, timing-wise, getting the ball out of the glove, having the same release point when it comes to the velocity, that thing is on point. That is nice. It's just all the other stuff. It's the, if you're throwing the changeup, when do you use it? If you're throwing the slider, when do you use it? Can you have the same velocity on the breaking ball to make the fastball and the breaking ball that much better? It's that kind of stuff. And there's a reason why he's at the bottom of the rotation, right? It just gets back to that team thing, right? That gets back to those at-bats where John's come on our show, when he talks to Hazel and whoever else wants to ask the question and wants to listen, he's saying those add-on runs. And I mentioned the innings. When you got a lead, say 3-1, and you got the bottom of the order up and it's second and third and one out, the at-bats have to get better. It's like the fifth inning with the second and third and Jansen up, right? All of a sudden, Jansen don't like the breaking ball down and away, right? The league adjusts when you do something special. Now, all of a sudden, the Khakis go, I see what you're doing. Now we're going to have to do something different to get you out. Now it's up to Danny to make the adjustment. And on top of it, Danny's having to play more because Kirky, quite frankly, offensively is giving you nothing. So now it's sort of, and then you add the try element to it. Now everybody's saying, how dare you say that, Kevin? They're getting paid tons of money. They should know how to do it. I've been at that level. It's very hard. Like, when you struggle, you try harder. You try harder, you grip the bat harder, you swing slower. When you swing slower, you think you have to get things started sooner to catch up to certain things. What do? You expand. When you expand, the at-bats look like this. So, this is what I get back to that. 1 through 26, sort of the roster is a little all over the place. Yeah. That's why you see John with the 75 different cleanup hitters and the lineups that are all different times. It's just impossible to throw that many names against the wall and hopefully you come up with the right sequencing. It just sometimes don't work out. This is sort of the way it looks.
And let's be clear. Spencer Horwitz is
really good. His at-bats are on point.
Yeah, they are.
Hopefully he's playing today.
They are. But, you look at guys like Davis Schneider. No, he's got 10 home runs. He's come back to earth.
Difference is he's a right-handed hitter. Now, you got to remember this now. When you're facing a bunch of right-handed throwers and you're a right-handed hitter, the valleys are going to be a little bit more than a left-handed hitter, right? You can see the ball a little bit better. You can lay off that secondary stuff. Like, it just gives you a better chance to let the ball travel a little bit more. So I think sometimes you got to give those young right-handed hitters a little bit of a break.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say here, though, is they have all reminded us recently that this team is not going to be carried to the postseasons by Spencer Horwitz, Davis Schneider, Addison Barger.
It's a lot to ask.
It's
when
just
Turkey's sitting under 200, Springer's sitting under 200, Vladdy, quite frankly. Raise your hand if you want him up at the biggest bat of the game. I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm a giant Vladdy fan, but man, some of the at-bats he has they're just not the same, Jeff. They are just not. Yeah.
When that's
a shame, right? And hopefully maybe they get Bo. Maybe this is what Ross was talking about. If they can get Bo back, Bo can hit the ground running. Sort of everybody else just sort of goes, okay, he's hitting the ground running. I can just go up and be myself. Because they really don't have that, right? And it's sort of, you're asking the names that you just mentioned to go up and be the Bo Bichette's and the Vladimir Guerrero Juniors of the world. And it's just a lot to ask. Yeah. No, it's just not fair.
They are complimentary players.
Absolutely.
They're not
There's nothing
players.
wrong with that.
They're not all-stars.
Yeah,
no,
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong.
Horwitz is a big leaguer.
There's nothing wrong with it at all.
Schneider's a big leaguer. There's just bottom of the order big leaguers, and they're being asked to not be that. So it's tough.
And they're also, in the case of Spencer Horwitz being asked to play a position that he does, 18 months ago wasn't playing. You can't put it any other. You can't put it any other way. Even the guys that they've drafted and developed, they're being moved around. And I know Buck talks about this. Listen, I understand versatility is an asset. I get that. versatility to me, though, is an asset when it comes to making a move or the 8th or 9th inning of a game. It's nice to know that you can leave a guy in the game because he's played second base, right? Or it's nice to know you can leave a guy in the game. He can play first base because he's not going to butcher the ball.
If you have
first base.
one of those guys, not three or four of them dudes. That's the point
I
you're
would
making.
rather have an everyday third baseman, an everyday shortstop, an everyday second baseman. But again, this isn't an accident. This is the way this organization built things. Now, did they want it to turn out this way? Of course not.
No.
But this was the plan here. This was the plan here, to have all these movable pieces and get what you needed to get out of Guerrero, Bichette, and Springer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the philosophy. That was the approach of the team this year. Clearly, it hasn't worked, to say the least. Didn't mention Jordan Romano. Again, if it doesn't rain, it pours. Jordan Romano had a setback in his recovery from a sore elbow. Who knows where that goes? The Jays did add a side armor, I believe, Jose Cuellas from the Chicago Cubs. He is with the team in Boston. Have not seen a corresponding roster move right now. Stuart Burrow was called up yesterday for Orelvis Martínez. Before we take a break,
he's a good kid. I like him. He's got a lot of energy. Again, he's a defensive player first.
Yeah. Let's talk about Orelvis Martínez, though, and we know what happened. It's his fault. All of that.
Well said.
What does this mean for him in terms of his development? In terms of, look, everybody was looking forward to seeing this kid come up, because just the same as everybody was looking forward to Vladdy and Bo. This is going to, I think, taint his debut a little bit. Again, it is. He failed a test for substance that has been used to help create testosterone. Jason Livermore is a Jamaican sprinter, was suspended by the International Amateur Athletics Federation for failing a test for this substance. Robert Mathis, defensive end, I think he was with the Colts, was suspended.
It's a serious drug, is what you're saying.
It's a drug that does have it's used to treat infertility in women, and it can be used. It can be prescribed off-label for males, but again, Google it. There's no evidence that it helps male infertility. I mean, it's basically used to suppress hormone production, and it's used, frankly, as a performance-enhancing drug. It's recognized as a performance-enhancing drug. So all that aside, Orelvis Martínez, he was learning a new position. What does this do? What does this do to him?
I'm not sure anything. Again, we'll see what happens to the front office and who's running the show next year and in the off season and what how just sort of what they have to do at the big league level. Who's going to be here next year? Like they're going to need younger guys that are cheap to sort of fill in the blanks. I mean, is he one of those guys? Who knows what they think about him. I know for me, if I were running the organization, it'd be hard to take him serious. Like at least for a little while. How would you know if he's any good or not? Like how would you know the difference? Like how would you know what you're seeing with your eyes is telling you that that's Orelvis? How would you know, Jeff? Like that's the thing, and I think that's what they sort of have to get past. And when would you see him? Who knows? Like for me, he's going to have to earn it. This means you go to AAA, you're there for an entire year. Like you're earning this thing. There ain't no like we're calling you up a month in the season. Not for me anyway. Like he's going to have to get it down and get it singing a bunch, like to show that whatever that was exactly what you said it was, and we're all full of it. And you're going to go out there and you're going to be the Orelvis that everybody thought you were going to be. I have to see it first. So
the Jays lineup is out. Do we need a drum roll? Isaiah Kiner-Falefa leading off. Spencer Horwitz is hitting second. Vladdy's hitting third. Justin Turner is DHing. Your guy George Springer is in right field and hitting fifth. Addison Barger's at third. Davis Schneider's in left. Alejandro Kirk behind the plate. Kevin Kiermaier at center field. And Chris Bassett on the mound against
that's about the best they got. Who else they got? Clement's not playing again?
No.
They seem to not like that kid. So, one minute he's 9 for 13 and the next minute he's not playing 3 days in a row. So, who knows what's going on with him. But, for the most part, I would think the way they've – George, you put him 9th, he's going to come up in the 9th inning. It's like you just can't hide the dude. Does it really matter at this point where they put the names?
I also think we need to say this Dalton Varsho is again, I don't know if there's a move been made, but we do know that he hurt his back in that swing on Saturday. He's not in the lineup. So with Dalton Varsho not in the lineup, they're erring on the side of outfield defense by putting their best available defensive outfield.
Tanner Houck's a handful. He's going to get if you're right-handed, you get a bunch of split fingers from him.
And obviously, I guess they're going lefty with Barger versus Houck instead of Clement. I don't understand the Ernie Clement thing any more than I normally don't understand the George Springer thing. Although again, I see it now, given the fact that Dalton Varsho's not there. And I guess maybe John Schneider's thinking is I don't have Varsho's left-handed bat in there. I can get Barger's left-handed bat in there to maybe help to maybe help alleviate that absence. But there you go. That's a lot.
Lefties against Tanner Houck are hitting somewhere in the 170 range. This is going to be a handful. He throws a bunch of sliders, throws a bunch of split fingers. Going to come after you with that crossfire action, 3/4 arm slot. He's going to do it with some vinegar.
Just think
he thinks he's better than you are.
I just think there's some guys who put your best lineup out there.
Oh,
to me, Ernie Clement needs to be in the lineup.
They're telling you he's not. He don't play enough to get in the flow of a season to where against the Tanner Houcks of the world that he's going to go out there and give you a competitive at bat. It's not really his fault because he's just not being penciled in there enough to. Do I think that he give you a better at bat than Barger? Yeah, I do think that. I think his swing is shorter and quicker. And against these dudes, Tanner Houck might be the best pitcher in the American League. Against these guys, you got to be short and quick. You got to. I know it's hard. But you got to let the ball travel a little bit more. And I would think a bigger swing, harder to do that with. A shorter, more compact swing. And again, there's a little short portion left. That's not the bad thing for Clement to aim for. But what do I know? Just on the Blair and Barker show.
We've got Jays tickets to give away to see the Jays take on the Yankees at the Rogers Center. We've got Lou Merloni, Red Sox TV and radio analyst. We've got Ben Shulman along. He had the call of the Cleveland-Toronto series. We'll get his take on what he saw and also talk about Orelvis Martínez. But when we come back, the great Jayson Stark of The Athletic will join us. It's Blair and Barker for a Monday on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker for a Monday. 7:10 will be the first pitch tonight from Fenway Park as the Jays, losers of 6 in a row. That is, by the way, their longest losing streak in 3 years. Opened a 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox. Chris Bassett on the mound for the Jays. Tanner Houck for the Red Sox. Again, first pitch set to fly at 7:10. Blair and Barker will be along following the game with Blue Jays talk as we, attempt to describe what transpired.
Mm-hmm. And, we can do it.
Maybe there'll be a change in narrative tonight.
I think Bassett's going to be good.
Maybe there'll be a
How's
change
that?
in narrative tonight. Maybe there'll be a change.
Yeah. Think positive, Jeff.
Maybe. Jayson Stark of The Athletic joins us on Blair and Barker. Hello, Mr. Stark.
There he is.
Mr. Blair, Mr. Barker, how's everything?
It's fine. I got a bone to pick with you.
Uh-oh.
Good.
I had a discussion before we came on with Dan Toman, our boss, and he made the point. He said, "I'm really enjoying the Jays aside, obviously, but I'm really enjoying baseball right now. I'm really kind of enjoying where the game is. I like the pace of the game." And I was thinking the same thing. I think I've watched more, honest to God, more baseball this year involving other teams than I have ever before. But you and Eno tell me that what I'm seeing is boring.
I didn't say that.
No, you said MLB defense is nearing all-time lows. Okay, or offense is nearing all-time lows. Clearly it is. But First, before we get into this article, is this an issue for baseball that offense is down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. Christian Yelich said it in this big piece that we wrote. Like, nobody wants to come to the park and see every lineup just get mowed down for all 9 innings. You have the greatest athletes who have ever played baseball, with all due respect to Kevin Barker, playing right now. You want to see more of them, like doing their great athlete thing, running around those bases. And that hasn't been happening.
Okay, Jason. Well, some would say after I read your article, it's almost like the offensive players are whining too much. Like you mentioned some of the. I saw the Springer comments. You mentioned the Yelich thing. It's like the pitchers have made all the adjustments, and now it's up to what you just said, the greatest athletes, in my mind, on the field to sort of catch up, right? Maybe shorten up, think going the other way. Maybe lay off of, we understand they're throwing harder than they've ever thrown. They throw more secondary pitches than they've ever thrown. We understand that. But you're supposed to be the elite of the elite. Take those. Try and go the other way. Am I onto something or am I overthinking it?
Well, that's one of the things that undoubtedly has to happen. I mean, I've heard from quite a few people in baseball with that same observation. And my point is launch angle, like the emphasis on launch angle and hitting balls in the air and all the swing and miss that goes with it is not new news. That's been going on for quite a while. What caused Eno and I to write this piece is that when you have basically the same group of hitters doing the same stuff that they were doing last year, right? And the results are markedly different, then that's a sign that something else is happening. And Kevin, here's the thing to keep in mind. The average team now only gets 8 hits a game.
Wow.
8. And there have only been 5 worst seasons in the modern era. 4 of them were 1906, 7, 8, and 9. The other was 1968, the year of the pitcher. And that's a sign to me that all the technology, all of the advances on the pitching side and the defense side are so far ahead of anything that's being used to help the hitters that baseball needs to pay attention, because it's going to take a lot more than just changing approach.
Okay, can an owner change that by paying them a different way to do different things, like hit 300 again?
Yeah, like if Stephen Kwan were suddenly the highest paid player in baseball, something like that, that would obviously get hitters' attention. But I still think there's got to be more there's got to be more than that, because somebody made the point in this article that, all right, there are a lot of what we call hot pitching coaches now, who have great data and great insight and great ability to basically invent and shape pitches in the lab. Name a hot hitting coach. Okay.
That's a great point.
Who on the hitting side is driving that? There's nothing. There's nothing equivalent.
I mean, I was going to say Kevin Long maybe, but he's got some pretty good hitters.
That always helps. I mean, there's a few teams that can hit, but this article at least should make you feel better about the Blue Jays. It's not just them. You don't seem like you feel that much better.
Not really.
It's been a trying weekend, Jayson.
Good try, Jason.
It's been a trying weekend.
I'm aware.
I'm expecting rain to break out in the studio any minute here. Our friend John Lowe used to make a point that baseball, and I guess you could say cricket as well, but they're the only sports where the defense has possession of the ball, and that it's an inherently negative game. The first act of a baseball game is me trying to get you to do nothing, basically. And now we've put all this technology in the hands of the person who ultimately controls the game. Do you have, are we almost at the point where we've got what we have here is a technological gap between pitchers and hitters? And I don't know how you close that.
I think that's exactly right. Now, I I want to talk about the defensive part of it too,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the pitching part of this, because one of the things that we documented is how so many more pitchers now throw 2 fastballs, 3 fastballs,
Right.
even 4 fastballs.
Yep.
We got a bunch of pitchers running around the big leagues now who've thrown 8 different pitches,
Yep.
7 different pitches, 6 different pitches. Almost everybody throws 5 different pitches.
Yeah.
And just imagine being a hitter. Just imagine facing a pitcher who's got 3 fastballs. And so you're standing at the plate, the ball's coming at you at 98, and you're trying to read the spin and anticipate where it's going. But this is a multiple choice quiz now. And you're just guessing, because the ball can move 3 different ways. It's delivered from the same arm slot. It's coming out of the same tunnel, but you don't know when it's going to move or how it's going to move until it's too late a lot of the time. Just the work being done now in pitching labs is incredible. And even though you wouldn't want to make the case that hitters have none of these advances, they've got their virtual reality glasses now, and they got these underground cages where they can duplicate the look and the movement of the pitches of every pitcher on the other team. So that's happening. What we try to document was that's not helping anymore. Pitching is too good and way too unpredictable.
Yeah, one of the numbers that really stood out to me in the article you and Dino did was, since 2021, the number of pitchers with 2 primary fastballs has jumped 20%. The number with 3 primary fastballs has jumped 39%. Pitchers this year on pace to throw nearly 8,000 more sinkers and cutters this year than last year. And
right.
And going back,
fastball once upon a time.
Yeah, just thinking of the pitchers I covered and how the number of fastballs they had, only the elite of the elite of the elite had, for the most part, Jayson, had multiple fastballs.
Yeah, you're a 4-seam guy with a riding fastball. You're a 2-seam guy with a sinker.
Yeah.
You're one or the other.
Yes.
Now you're both, and you have a cutter.
Okay.
And they're both going 95, 96, 98, or if you pitch for the Pirates, 102.
Jayson, what if you're a really good hitter, like the Judges of the world, like the Sotos of the world, who don't seem to have trouble with the 3 different fastballs and the sliders and the slow breaking balls? It's like if you're Major League Baseball and you're thinking to yourself, we have to try and help everybody else catch up to, say, the top 35 hitters in baseball who seem to not care about the moving breaking balls and the high octane velocity and the elevated stuff. I think you're rocking a hard place, no?
Yeah, thank God for them. Thank God somebody can hit. But how many guys like that are there? Another one of the stats in this piece is you've only got 25 hitters in the whole sport on pace to hit 30 homers. 5 years ago, there were 58. So let's do the math. There used to be 2 on every team. Now there's not even 1 on every team.
It's funny sorry, go ahead.
No, it's not even about the ability to hit the ball over the fence. It's look at the decline in doubles over that period of time. 5 years ago, the slugging percentage on balls hit to the outfield was over 1,000. And this year, it's under 900. And so the upshot is 1,000 doubles are going to disappear between now and 5 years ago. 2,600 extra base hits essentially will have disappeared in 5 years. And so part of it is how the ball is flying this year. But the other part is this has attracted a lot of attention, that outfielders are playing deeper than they have ever played since we've been keeping track of this. The average center fielder plays 12 feet deeper, almost 12 feet than when we first started measuring this 9 years ago. And so why are they doing that? To take away doubles. They'll give you that blooper. But if you hit a gapper, outfielders run down those balls now like they never had at any point since we've been watching baseball. Everybody's Andrew Jones out there.
Yeah, it's when you mentioned doubles, I always remember conversations I used to have with Cito Gaston, and one of Cito's, key tenets was if I see a hitter, if I see someone hitting a lot of doubles, I see a hitter in a good place. Cito used to judge doubles as the way you knew if a guy was quote unquote on. And you're absolutely
bring
right.
back the level swing, Jason. That's what I always say. Stop trying to uppercut. That's what it is, right? Think middle the other way with a line drive swing. Level out your swing. I was always told, and that didn't always work out for me, right? I mean, a lot of that has to do with talent, and you have to execute that. But I give myself a better chance of catching up to all of that stuff that you were talking about, the different kinds of fastballs and the breaking balls, if my swing's leveler. So I would think that has something to do with teaching, right? If organizations stop teaching it, maybe they'd be better hitters and there'd be better teams offensively. I don't know. Maybe I'm shooting that in the dark, but
that is not what they're trained to do,
no,
Kevin.
Yeah, I know.
They're just not.
They don't pay them to do that.
Right. Luis Arias does what you just described, right?
Yeah.
Who did he play for 2 years ago? The Twins. Right? Who did he play for last year? The Marlins.
Yeah.
Who does he play for this year? The Padres. I just asked him a week or so ago, do teams value what you do? And they're telling us that they don't. So, I mean, we can talk about level swing, keep the bat in the zone, use the middle of the field. All that sounds good. Teams aren't valuing it or teaching it.
You know, it's funny you said that because Kevin Kiermaier, when he first signed back here, I think the first thing out of his mouth was, nobody wanted to talk to me because I didn't hit enough home runs last year. All I was doing was getting on base and hitting singles, and I thought I had to change my game, and now all of a sudden he's hitting like 220 instead of 320 off the fastball because he's thinking to himself, the only way I feed my family and get paid for next year is I got to pull the ball in the air with some authority. And again, it just gets back to that thing, right? If an organization don't want you to do it, why would you even try to do it?
Yeah. You're on to something. I don't want to say that you're not, but baseball is going to have to do more. I mentioned how it's the fewest hits per game since 1968. What happened after 1968? They changed the rules. They lowered the mound 6 inches to try to help the hitter. And I don't know that that's under consideration now. It doesn't sound like it. They tried moving the mound back in the Atlantic League. It was a disaster. But like one of the things that baseball fiddled with a couple of years ago in the Florida Complex League was dictating where outfielders could play. They drew these circles in the outfield, and you couldn't play deeper than your circle. What's that accomplish? It means you're going to have more extra base hits if guys with that level swing hit the ball as hard as modern hitters hit the ball. I mean, I like this idea. I know it's not a good look to have big circles in the outfield, but whatever. If every hard hit ball in the gap is either a great catch or an extra base hit, I see no downside. Okay,
except that owners got to pay them more.
As an entertainment experience.
Well, yeah, owners have to pay them more because they're getting more hits, and then the owners would be mad, and it would suffer in other parts of baseball, right? So it's like, do I take away? Do I pay more for that and take away from other things? So it's like you're taking away. Do you? Don't you? And does baseball even care? I think that's the question too.
Yeah, I mean, they do care. They talk about this, but I don't know. We've had this conversation, but if this happened in the NFL,
there'd be circles.
Offense declined this dramatically. How many rule changes would there be?
Circles. There'd be circles. Is what Jeff
You'd be required to give 5 yards. You'd be required to give 5 yards at the line of scrimmage if offense was not. No, you're right. The NFL would just they would
do it whether you like it or not.
A bunch of rule changes in there. Give me your favorite Willie Mays number. I'm reading your Athletic column on Willie Mays, of course. Passed away last week. We had Bob Kendrick on the show, and Bob was kind of wondering if you added on 2 years of Willie, that he had military service and all this stuff, sort of where would Willie's career numbers ended up? What's your favorite Willie Mays number? Because I got one, and it's out of your column that absolutely blew me away, but I'd like you to tell me yours first.
Okay, well, I'm glad Bob made that point because I did, after laying out a bunch of amazing numbers, I did ask the big what if question. How could a guy have 660 homers and 3,200 hits, and we're still asking what if? But what if he hadn't lost those 2 years of the service? And what if he hadn't played at Candlestick? It's something to think about. But here was my favorite. There are a lot of these that I love, but Willie Mays won 4 home run titles. I don't know if that seems like a lot to people, but it's as many as Barry Bonds and Willie McCovey put together. But here's the thing. He also won 4 stolen base titles. And so I thought to myself, who else could ever have done this? So I made a list of everybody in the modern era who's won 4 stolen base titles. And if you look at the list, there's a lot of D. Gordons, okay?
Yeah.
Not winning any home run titles.
Yes.
So all of them combined won 1 home run title by Ty Cobb, and that was in 1909 when he hit 9 homers. And then Willie Mays came along and won 4 home run titles in a career where he was also winning 4 stolen base titles. Just a reminder of all of the things that he could do that the average human couldn't do.
Yeah, this was my favorite. And I love the way this is put, and it was 10. What big departments did Willie Mays lead the league in? Everything. He had seasons in which he led the league in all 10 of these categories. Seasons. Hits, runs, homers, triples, stolen bases average, on base slugging, total bases, walks. That is insane. That is insane.
He had 250 homer seasons, and he had a 440 steal season. He had a 200 hit season. He had a 20 triple season. He had 4 home runs in a game. He led off the All-Star game with a homer. Here's the other thing. Like, name anybody who did all that stuff. Hit 600 homers. And when we ask what's the most famous highlight of their career, it's a defensive play.
Yeah.
But that's true of him because he made that catch. Hey, I got a Toronto story for you.
Okay.
1992 World Series, Game 3. Remember what happened, Jeff? Devon White.
Devon White, right in the botched call. Yeah.
Right. Devon White made a catch that was very Willie Mays-like.
Right.
Like, in front of the wall, turned, threw it back, should have been a triple play.
Yeah.
The third out call was screwed up, so it wasn't a triple play. But the next day, I walked into the park, and who was sitting there? Vin Scully.
Oh.
And I said, Vin, did you see the Willie Mays catch? And he said, oh, yeah, I was calling that game. Of course he was.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, so you saw this catch, the Devon White catch. What'd you think? He said, the Devon White catch was better. So I wrote this, guys, and the world turned upside down because you can't say that.
No.
Okay. Even Vince Scully couldn't say that. It was true. Willie Mays would admit it wasn't his greatest catch, but this was sacred territory, and this was a sacred player. And Vince Scully went there.
Yeah.
Better him than us.
One of my favorite lines from Felipe Alou was talking about Willie Mays being a great center fielder. And he said, and that was a time in the game when center field was a field. And, then you go and look at some of the dimensions, the polo grounds in some of those places, and just the parks that he played in. He really was.
Jason, because of how good pitching is, do you think we'll ever see another Willie Mays? Like, that can do everything, steal bases, hit the home runs, like hit with runners in scoring position, like all those things it takes to be another Willie Mays?
Well, Bobby Witt Jr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
A very multi-talented human. Ronald Acuna Jr., when healthy, does things other humans don't.
Mookie Betts.
But Mookie Betts does everything. But, okay, here's the difference. There was an aura around Willie Mays, wasn't there? Henry Aaron had it too. I said this on TV the other day. I was in awe of Willie Mays and Henry Aaron. I talk to players all the time, but they were different. And there's something about that aura that I don't know if any player could duplicate now. It's hard to think whether any current Hall of Famer has that aura. Maybe Nolan Ryan, maybe Koufax, but that's the part when you consider what baseball was in America, in North America, in
Jason,
Willie Mays' time.
We got to run, man. Great stuff as always,
awesome,
my friend.
Thank you so much.
Be well.
Always good to talk to you guys.
Take care. Lou Merloni joins us next. We got Jay's tickets as well. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has advanced to the second round of All-Star voting.
Good for him.
Ryan Mountcastle is ahead of him.
He should be.
Vladdy will probably go to the home run derby, one would think.
Why?
Defend his title.
What?
He might be the only Jay going to the All-Star.
Where is the All-Star game? Forgot.
I didn't even remember.
I
don't know. Sorry, find out for me. I've got tickets to give away because, wouldn't you know it, we've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 59590. Our last question was, in 2008,
Texas, Arlington.
This famous actor and comedian lived out a lifelong dream by hitting leadoff as a member of the Yankees in a spring training game against the Pirates. Name him. The answer was Billy Crystal. I hate when actors do that. It's like that.
That's because you're jealous?
Will Ferrell thing. No,
you're jealous.
Stay in your lane.
That's what it is.
Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays and Yankees at the Rogers Center on Sunday, June 30th. In the Seinfeld episode, The Chaperone, again with the Seinfeld. In the Seinfeld episode, The Chaperone, character George Costanza famously gets the Yankees to change their uniforms from a polyester material to a more breathable cotton. Like, why?
It's wonderful.
First Orelvis, then this. Which Yankees player can be heard on the broadcast splitting his new cotton pants at the end of the episode after the material shrinks? Again, in the Seinfeld episode, The Chaperone, character, I swear to God they do this just to screw me up.
No,
character George
really?
Costanza absolutely famously gets the Yankees to change their uniforms from a polyester material to a more breathable cotton. Which Yankees player can be heard on the broadcast splitting his new cotton pants at the end of the episode after the material shrinks? Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/5.
I can relate to that because every pair of pants that I had in the minor leagues shrunk. It's why it's rare that you would walk in a locker room, say 45 minutes before a game start, and people are putting on their pants that they're not standing on them, trying to stretch, trying to make the legs longer.
Why?
Because they're shrinking.
Well, how come that doesn't happen in the majors?
Nothing shrinks in the majors, buddy.
Well,
it's always
George Springer's batting average. Sorry, come on, it was right there.
I mean,
it was right there.
It
was right there.
Nice.
7:10 is the first pitch tonight. George Springer is in the lineup as the Blue Jays look to end their 6-game losing streak against the Boston Red Sox. Tanner Houck will be in the mound for the Red Sox. Chris Bassett for the Blue Jays. The rest of the pitching matchups: Gossman against Bayo, Crawford against Rodriguez, and then here come the Yankees. And I think, is looking, depending on weather, I think Garrett Cole starts Sunday for the Yankees against the Jays. So it's looking up. Looking up for the Blue Jays.
He's still in spring training mode.
Who is?
Cole.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, oh, yeah, he is. That's what scares me. Meanwhile, the Red Sox, 42-36. They currently hold the last wild card spot in the American League. I might have misread them. I keep thinking that at some point, they're going to hit the skids, but they've won 7 of their last 8 games. Their run differential, which we talked about with Alex Anthopoulos, is 4th in the AL, 7th in Major League Baseball. Since May 19th, they're 20-12. Only Cleveland is better. They are, whether or not they are a good team, they're playing pretty good baseball right now. Let's bring in Lou Merloni. He's a Red Sox TV and radio analyst, former Red Sox infielder. Lou, thanks so much for joining us on Blair and Barker today. We just had Jayson Stark on, and we were talking about the disappearing offense in baseball, and we were talking about how doubles are disappearing and all this stuff. And I wanted to ask you about Jarren Duran, because I remember when Curtis Granderson was with the Jays, we got in a discussion one time about the year he hit like 23 triples which nobody, that's like 1905 numbers, right? People just don't do that. Son of a gun, Jaron Duran's got, he's got 10 triples so far. Now, I understand, that doesn't necessarily mean multiply by 2, he's going to get 20. But if you look at his numbers, he's really turned into a terrific player, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has, because defensively as well, he's one of the best outfielders next to Varsho, actually, as far as in some metrics. But offensively, he's just a different animal. And the great thing about him, he plays every single day, and he plays with his hair on fire. Sometimes you question what has to happen for him to actually stop on the base paths. And, he hits the doubles, but if last year he probably had about 10 singles that he turned into doubles. And I think the league kind of caught on and they're a little bit more aggressive on balls in the gap or base hits to their right or left. They know they got to get the ball in. But a lot of times when normal guys are just hitting doubles and standing up on second, he's just pushing it. He's trying to get a triple every single time, and he just flies around the base paths, plays hard every night.
Lou, what's more surprising, that the Red Sox lineup is 5th in hits in baseball, or they're 4th in stolen bases? Which one's more surprising to you?
Well, I think the stolen bases are just traditionally. It's like this Sox team is not really like that. But given the talent, given the players that they have, you play to your personnel, right? And so they've got a bunch of athletes. They got about 6 or 7 guys, and it doesn't just show up with stolen bases either. It shows up with them moving 90 feet when other teams probably aren't. You know what I mean? Or they're able to stop and go on like a bobble in the outfield and turn it into an extra 90 feet, whereas slow people like me who don't move very well, a little less unathletic, probably can't really get up to speed quick enough to even think of scoring. So, because of the personnel, you may want to flip that and say it's probably because of the hits, because they're so inexperienced. This entire team has basically, except for a few guys, under 3 years of experience in the big league level, and they're still going out and doing it and getting hits.
Yeah, when you look at this team, and you look at the absences from this team, how do you think, Lou, ownership, I'm not going to mention management here, I'm looking above, how do you think ownership views this team? And do you think they may be changing their opinion of where they are, and as a result, might just be a little more active at the trade deadline than we expect, or do you expect the Red Sox to be really, really cautious here?
Well, I think, there's still a ways to go, as we all know. You could drop 8 of 10, and we could have a different discussion. But I do think giving this team a chance at the deadline, as you guys know, Kevin, it's like, you don't believe in us, and we go out there for 4 months and play real well and put ourselves in a situation. We did our job. Now it's time for you to do yours. It's time for you to go out there and get us the extra starter or bullpen arm that we need or fill a gap. But as far as the all-in thing goes, I think ownership is in sort of the last 4 or 5 years waiting for this. I wish there was an announcement that they were kind of waiting for some of these young minor leaguers to prove they could play. But I think what you're seeing is a core, a talented group that hopefully ownership now looks at this team more so in, say, 14, 15, 16, when they started seeing guys like Betts and Jackie Bradley and Benintendi and Devers and Bogarts establishing himself. At that point, Erod, they said, okay, our young kids are here. Now let's supplement. Now let's go get a stud starting pitcher. Now let's go get a stud right-handed bat, put it in this lineup and see where this thing takes off. Does that happen at the deadline? Probably not. That's more of an off-season thing.
Speaking of stud starting pitchers, how about Tanner Houck? Why has he been so good?
Yeah. He streamlined his delivery a little bit. And for him, he just needed to throw more strikes, and I think that's helped him. And the other stuff, the slider's always been good. But if you look at some of the numbers, he added about 5.5 inches of horizontal break to his slider. But slider that was outstanding is now breaking even more away from righties. A split-finger fastball that was extremely inconsistent and in dire need of a third pitch to get lefties out. He kind of changed the grip a little bit. He added about 3.5, 4 inches of vertical drop to it. And he's throwing it for strikes. Both these pitches, whenever he wants. The get-me-overs, he's throwing it 1-0 to get back into counts, both pitches. He's throwing 2-0 to get back into counts. He's burying it for strike 3. He's all over the zone, and the stuff is wicked. Like, when you look at some of the, the metric numbers and stuff, it's got more movement on all of his pitches than, top 5 in all of baseball, on every single one of them, it seems like. So the stuff is amazing. He's throwing strikes. And even when he gives up 6 innings, 3 runs, you still look at it and say, it's still a pretty good night, even though for him it hasn't been.
Yeah, it's the crossfire action three-quarter arm slot, too. That's, if you're a right-handed hitter, I mean, good luck with that. All the pitches you just mentioned, he's abusing the slider, and he's got more break on that thing. Back-to-back starts against the Blue Jays. Now, obviously, the Blue Jays offensively are not having the best of years, but it is back-to-back starts. We just saw Barrios coming off back-to-back starts against the Guardians. It just looked like they were a little bit more comfortable. They looked like sitting certain location and certain counts, and when they were getting it, they weren't missing it. Who's got the advantage in your mind when that happens?
I always think it's the hitter. It's just the hitter in me. You know what I mean? Because even if a guy dealt against us, we kind of have an idea of what he was going to. You know what I mean? And how he was attacking me. And I guess a pitcher could say the opposite. That now, if you got a hit, I know what to do or what not to do. But I always felt like it's the hitter. And I don't know if you guys are going through it as well, but this is like the fourth time this has happened to us this year, where like two starting pitchers come out and the two starts in a row, play a team home and away. It was like the Angels, now you guys, Cleveland, and there was one more. So I don't know what's up with the schedule, but we've seen a lot of this.
Lou, I want to get your thoughts from the outside looking in. You're a former hitter. Tell me what you see from Vladdy. Are you a little surprised that the numbers are what the numbers are? I think he's got 8 homers and something like 32, 33 RBIs or something like that. We just coming from seeing the Guardians, and Ramirez has got almost 70 steaks, Lou. Like, I hate to say it, but that's sort of what it's supposed to look like when it comes to Vladdy. Outside looking in, what are you seeing from him?
It's funny because I'm watching him, and like the word was like, I look at the hard hit, right, the exit velocity, and it's like he is hitting some of the hardest singles anyone's ever seen. Or he's hitting some of the hardest lineouts to left field or right field that anyone's ever seen. So it's like the contact is there, and he still gives you a good at-bat. It's, and I'm not a big launch angle guy, but I don't know, is he not just catching it out front enough? You know what I mean? He's not getting any kind of lock, because a guy like this, he doesn't want to hit 110 ground ball. He wants to hit 110 in the barrel in the air, and it's freaking gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what he's looking for. So I don't know. Is it a contact point? Is it not getting out front enough? Is he catching the ball a little bit too deep on that downward swing and just hitting line drives or hard ground balls? But he's still scary. It's just that he's scaring you with singles, very hard hit ones. If I was an infielder, I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Just real quick. Has there been an adjustment with the organization when it comes to the Red Sox? You were talking there about the launch angle and, getting to sort of that uppercut finish. I think that's what it is. The fluidity of that thing. How do you get the foot down on time? And the easy finish, like I'm not forcing that, would mean you're on time with the lower half and the front foot. I wonder with the fifth and hits in baseball, with the Red Sox, and the averages are a little higher, you're noticing, with the all 9 guys in the order than with other teams. Is there a different approach? Is the swings more level? Are they thinking middle the other way? Is there something the Red Sox organizations have changed since the spring training?
Yeah, I think if you peek at it a little bit, first off, there's a lot of athletes, right? So there's really, they'd love to see a little bit more contact. And trust me, this is a team that punches out a lot still. But when they're rolling, there's more contact. But I think if you look at some of the numbers, the Red Sox might be one of the best teams, batting average, hitting the ball the other way. And I think that has been, they got a couple of guys here. Devers is at his best when it's left center. Refsnyder, a veteran, right? Because with this outfield was so thin, his approach is basically, he once told me that his left field line is the shortstop, which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
right? He's just staying up the middle of the field. Now, Duran this year, you throw him a heater out of half, it's laced to left field. That's when he's at his best. So there's a lot of guys here that in this lineup that when you look at when they're at their best, you're starting to see them driving the other way. The kid Valdez was pull happy. He got sent down. They convinced him to stay the other way. And since he's come up, everything's been left center, rocket. So they're staying on the ball longer, and they're just sort of barreling it up the middle of the field, and they get their home runs. But, barrel the baseball, oppo, run this thing out, get in the base pass, and cause havoc.
Yep.
Last question for us. When the Red Sox got Tyler O'Neill, I spoke to somebody at Baseball Canada who knows Tyler really well, and he said, man, I'm so happy for him. He needed to get the hell out of St. Louis. He needed to change of scenery. He's going to be a great Red Sox. And I kind of thought, okay. I mean, I know Tyler. I know the type of player he is. What do you think of when you see Tyler O'Neill right now? And did he come as advertised? Has he been better than what you thought he'd be?
He's better than what I thought he'd be. He is. And, the way I look at it, I know he was traded to go to St. Louis, but that's his first big league time. And I think when a player starts to feel like the organization doesn't believe in you anymore, it's time to move on. And when you finally do move on, you get this fresh start. I think from day one, he felt like, he kind of walked in as a veteran, right? He walked into a team where now all of a sudden he's looked at as a veteran, where the other one maybe he wasn't sure where he fit anymore. And I think he's taken that approach, and it's really helped him. He has been fantastic defensively, offensively, when he has been healthy, and that's the biggest key, right, given his history. Keep him healthy and swinging. But he has been a lot better than I thought, and I think a lot of that is being somewhere now that, he gets a second chance to kind of show who he is, and maybe what happened in St. Louis, wasn't really all him.
Lou, we're going to let you run, man. Always good to talk to you. You're
Wonderful
the best,
stuff.
pal.
Thanks, buddy.
Anytime, guys. Try to enjoy this one.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to you soon.
See you, man.
That's Lou Merloni, Red Sox TV and radio analyst.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they're fifth in baseball in hits. I just wonder the different kinds of approach, the different mindset, the sort of taking what the pitcher gives you. Not always trying to get, frisky, party out front kind of thing. Like, a lot of teams can't do that. Again.
You kind of wonder, though, too, Kevin, the Red Sox approach to pitching is different. We've talked about that. It's different than other teams, their approach to pitching.
Yeah.
You look at
they can manufacture runs, too, by the stolen base.
Well, and now, I mean, and I don't watch the Red Sox every day. But if you look at the Red Sox, I mean, they've got two guys with 20-plus stolen bases. This is the Red Sox. David Hamilton's got 21. Duran, who I think is the most valuable player in that team,
you could
has
argue.
20.
Yeah. Tyler O'Neill's pretty good,
too.
too.
Just the second pair of Red Sox to ever have 20-plus stolen bases within the club's first 80 games. The first pair was in the team's inaugural season in 1901.
Well,
I mean, I'll look at Baseball Reference, wins above average. 1, Gunnar Henderson. 2, Aaron Judge. 3, Shohei Ohtani. 4, Jaron Duran. Tied with Juan Soto at 4.2. And again, I keep getting back to this. 10 triples.
Yeah.
Nobody hits triples.
Yeah,
Bobby Witt had 11 last year and led the majors.
Yeah, I read something too. He didn't want a day off. Like he is thriving to play every single day, which is a big deal. Like that's a mindset.
And do you remember? Think back to was it last year where he had that game against the Jays at Fenway Park and he misplayed a couple of balls? He just butchered it.
Yeah.
Was it last year or the year before?
Yes,
and the fans were booing him and all this. And now you look at him. I mean, he's. Again, he's got to be a candidate
he's
for
hitting
the All-Star
balls over the flight deck at the Rogers Center. Like, he's got sneaky pop. He can steal a base. Like, he's a threat defensively. He can beat you on both sides of the ball.
He's on a 13-game
it's sort of the Alex Cora way. I mean, again, you listen to Cora talk about him. He is just oozing confidence, and it's almost like he's a finished product now. Like they're basically saying, I'm going to pinch your name in every single day. Go out there and do your thing, kid. Like, we're not going to mess with you. It's kind of nice, right? Lefties and righties. Leave him out there. Let him face both. Figure it out. He's a part of your future. I just wonder different mindset. I wonder about that. Again, we talk about these good teams. We talk about the people that are covering these good teams and these lineups that are getting all these hits. The mindset's different. You look at the Guardians, Jeff. They destroy fastballs. Destroy. They are ready to hit they are calibrating it. How many dudes do you know for the Blue Jays that in an at-bat look like they are calibrating heaters? Like you can visibly watch the at-bat take place and actually seeing it play out. I can just see Ramirez against Yusei Kikuchi when he threw his bat behind him and that calibrating thing. Like, I'm a little late on that thing. I'm a little out in front. Now I got to get it down sooner. I see it longer. I take 97 middle in. I yank that thing for a single to left field. You can see him actually figuring out how to calibrate that thing. That's the point. It's like those in-game, in-at-bat adjustments that you rarely, if ever, see from the Blue Jays. You've seen a little bit of that from Turner, but Turner's almost 40.
Yeah.
Why do you not see the other guys doing that? That's the very, for me anyway, frustrating part of this is it coaching? Is it just they can't? Is it they don't want to? Is it whatever it is, it's just, for whatever reason, not sort of working out. And if you talk about these other good teams, they're doing it. Why aren't the Jays doing it? That's all.
The Jays do get a little bit of a break here. Connor Wong has been placed on the paternity leave list. He's in the middle of a 13-game hitting streak. So the Red Sox have recalled Tyler Heineman. They've also recalled righties Isaiah Campbell and Josh Winkowski. They've optioned lefties Cam Boozer and Brad Keller to AAA. So Tyler Heineman still hanging in there. And he will be up with the Red Sox today. Again, Jose Cuellar is, think that's how you pronounce his name.
I think he did it.
Is with the Blue Jays. And I have not seen a corresponding move yet on the part of the Blue Jays. He's a sort of a side armor that they acquired and they picked up from the Chicago White Sox. So
it's a bunch of lefties in that lineup for the Red Sox. Like it's, to say you need the right pockets at the right time, and it just screams in two lefties. I mean, I'm assuming Mays is not one of those. Mays looked a little bit better. I mean, I know he gave up some hits, but his last outing looked like he's a little bit more confident.
Yeah.
Pace was a little.
Yeah, no,
Pace is like it's baby steps right now.
Yeah, well,
listen, ain't got nobody else.
Listen,
that's it. That's basically where they're at.
As long as he's healthy, which
velocity looked better, the sinker was later moving, and the slider was competitive. That's the four things that you're sort of looking for. And again, it's baby steps. Like if I want it in with movement, get it in there with movement.
Let me ask you this: Yariel Rodriguez is scheduled to start Wednesday. You start him or Bowden Francis?
I'd start Francis.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I don't know what you do with Rodriguez. Like until he can command a fastball, I mean, what do you do with a guy
Jose
who has
Quas,
trouble?
I'm told. Not
who throw? Well, I told you that's how you say it.
What did I say?
No idea
Quas,
what you said.
Whatever. Anyhow, Quas.
Don't be afraid to look it up before you actually say it out loud.
Like I thought I'd be coming on the show today talking about.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, I don't. Just again, it's the quality of the strike throwing. Again, a lot of. You say this all the time. A hitter will or a team will tell you what they think of you. Getting called strikes against good teams, good lineups, tells you all you need to know about their stuff. Mm-hmm. That's late breaking. They don't see it right out of the guy's hand. They take it. That's how you get called strikes. It's a plethora of non-competitive stuff. The fastball's all over the place. So for me anyway, until you can get all that stuff over the rubber, means he kicks the leg. It's balanced. You're in that compact position to where you can fire down the hill and have the same release point and at least get that fastball competitive.
And I've got to say this, too.
I don't know what you try to do. I mean, you can see poor little Petey over there. He got no hair as it is, trying to pull out his little Fu Manchu thing he's got because you can see him over there. It's like...
I can always tell how Pete feels when he has that little pitch counter in his hand, and he's flipping it around. He's twirling it.
Yeah,
if you want to watch, you want to know when the pressure's on, Pete will do it in his middle finger when it's...
The pressure is that they're one of three teams that have allowed 100 or more homers. Yeah. Their pen is first in baseball allowing the homers with 47. They've given up 104 big ones. Yeah.
And a reminder when it comes to Yariel Rodriguez, keep in mind that per the terms of his contract, this is the only year the Jays can option him without having to put him through waivers. So
who would you calling up?
Well, no, but I'm just saying, I'm saying, if it's not like you're obligated, if he's not going to start for you, if he's not starting for me this year, he's in AAA and he's working on being a starter.
Yeah, not me. I mean, I'd rather him be around Pete Walker all the time. He can do his little pins on the side and bring him in. Let him throw two or three innings, simplify the pitches that he throws.
You can keep him with the team. I mean, Alek Manoah was with the Blue Jays while he was in Buffalo.
You're acting like they're 15 games above 500 trying to win the East. They're 7 under. Like, what better way to develop a dude than when you're 7 under?
I'm not certain that a guy who is life and death to get through 4 innings in the majors is what you are.
Would you rather him go through it when they're 7 under or when they're 15 over trying to win the East next year?
This guy has to start.
I said it next year.
This guy has to start for you next year.
Okay.
He's got to be part of your rotation.
They go down there and AAA and figure it out?
I'd much rather...
Walking 9 or 12 or 15 people down there.
Let's see if he's capable of going 7 innings. Or you can leave him up here and you can use him as a swingman.
There you go.
Whatever. Yeah, that's great. That's going to be great.
Okay.
You can use him as a swingman. Next year, he'll be ready to go as your number 2 or number 3 starter.
How do you throw a fastball where you want it to go? Show me. I mean, you got the best pitching coach in baseball, in my mind. Show me how you throw a fastball. Can you go out or third to a lefty? Can you go down and away with a sinker? Can you elevate, move his feet a little bit? And now you start flipping that stuff and adding and subtracting and doing all that starting and stopping, which I bet you that's going to, woo. Yeah, that ain't going to last much longer. I mean, he's the right hand of Yusei Kikuchi. He looks exactly like Yusei looked last year. No? Raise your hand. And now look at you say. Yeah, it was all over the place. Couldn't command secondary stuff. Abused some cutter thing that nobody ever wanted him to throw. And now look at you say. It's consistent velocity. The breaking ball's down for the most part.
You say was not that bad last year. No. Sorry, man. He was not that. I mean,
you was watching a different game than I was watching.
Nah, yeah, you're trying to tell me that Yariel, that you say Kikuchi was as bad as Yariel.
At times he was.
Okay, maybe at times.
But, there you go. Say you're sorry.
At his worst, I still would have rather have had him out there.
Man, it's like again. I mean, they've dropped 4 years, 30-some million on this guy. Well, get used to it.
Well, that's fine. But if he can't pitch, he can't pitch.
I mean, it's like Barker will be breaking it down in spring training next year. Watch him throw a side. With Jeff Blair going, what are you seeing, guys?
The same thing I saw last year.
No cleanup hitter. No cleanup hitter.
No cleanup hitter.
Hey, Jeff, I still got a question to ask you. Who's going to drive in the runs?
Ben Shulman is our Blue Jays play-by-play voice on Sportsnet.
But you were thinking it.
What?
Where's that cleanup hitter at?
He'll join us.
You know Teoscar's available. It's a free agent next year.
Wouldn't that be something?
No, it would not. That's never happening.
Then he'd be hurt.
Oh, come on. That's never
Wouldn't
happening.
That be something? Ben Shulman joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. 7:10 will be the first pitch tonight as the Jays and the Boston Red Sox open a 3-game series at Fenway Park with Chris Bassett on the mound against Tanner Houck. Quite a weekend for Mr. Barker's Blue Jays in Cleveland. A series sweep at the hands of the Guardians. And a rare, I'm going to say for this organization, a rare positive PED test. Ben Shulman is our Blue Jays voice on Sportsnet. He had the call of the, what are you looking at? It is a rare trip. It's true. It is. It's very rare. It's one of the few positive things we've seen from the Blue Jays.
Be nice.
Positive test.
Man.
Ben Shulman joining us on Blair and Barker. Sorry about that.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
No problem. Very quick question for you, Ben.
Yes.
You were there. We talked about the PED suspension, and I made the point that, look, it's quite likely that Orelvis was going to go back when Bo came back off the IL, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that must have just seemed so deflating to the mood around the team in general.
Oh yeah, I mean they indicated to us that potentially players found out about this a little earlier than it got out, but as soon as we got back there Sunday, it's a different mood. I mean, this is not something that I think anyone saw coming. With the rules, with the Players Association, the team didn't know about this at all. As far as I'm aware, and multiple different people told me, and I don't see why they would necessarily lie about that, because I don't think they would have promoted him had they known. So they didn't know at all about what was going on. And you have a guy pick up his first major league hit one day, and then we heard on Sunday, they heard, according to their statements on Saturday, you hear the next day that he's going to be out for 80 games. I mean, that's as bad as it gets.
Yeah, Shai had, and I saw Shai was on Blue Jay Central, and he made the point because that was my first reaction. Anytime this happens, you want to know who knew what when. But because he was in the minors when the test was conducted, basically the flow of information is different, right? So, I would think that he probably, quite frankly, and there's privacy concerns and all that. It's entirely possible. I mean, I think it's possible that the Jays probably found out about it at the same time as the players did. Because you're right, I just can't imagine they would. Can't imagine they bring.
How does he come back from this? I think that's $1 million question.
I mean, I think you can come back from it, and there are going to be some people, whom will never forget it. And that's just the reality of the situation. If you come back and you produce, how often, I'm not trying to call specific guys out, how often do people talk about Starling Marte getting caught? Even, Frankie Montas. There's a lot of these guys that I think we end up kind of forgetting. I even think you could look 4 or 5 years down the road, and if Fernando Tatis, granted, he's such a high-profile case, maybe it never fully goes away, but if he ends up producing at a very high level and never has any trouble with it again, I think that some people could forget about it. So you really got to do your talking on the field, I think. And if he comes back and he hits a bunch of homers, then people are going to say, hey, okay, this wasn't related to that. But at the same time, some people will never forget.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this is not the same front office. If it's a different front office, how do they handle Orelvis? And, how does that whole thing shake out?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this is the only organization that has had a positive test. Again, that they rarely have them. I mean, my experience has been in the past. First of all, you can tell people, you can have the most watertight story in the world, and most people aren't going to believe it. They're just going to shrug it off and say it was PEDs. But the main thing to me is if you accept responsibility, which he accepted responsibility
on me. Yeah.
I think as long as you do that, I really do think that it will probably.
And he's 22.
Probably be.
I think that helps. That helps. He's 22.
Yeah, it's not like he won an MVP award and then it happened.
Right.
It's a very different case than I think some guys where it happens right in their prime. He could have a long career, and this could be a short footnote. I mean, hey, the guy who closed out 2 of those 3 games for the Cleveland Guardians,
there you go.
Happened to him. No one talks about that. Exactly. And he's only 26. He came back from it and immediately is one of the best closers in baseball.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the lineup a little bit. I mean, that's the huge topic of conversation. Obviously, Varsho's not in the lineup. I would assume if he was healthy, he'd probably be hitting somewhere 4th or 5th, I would think, against Tanner Houck because he's right-handed and you're trying to stack some of your better hitters up there. When you were there in Cleveland, what did you think about the lineup, the middle of the order? We sort of know the first 3, I would think, now the way it's kind of shaking out. I mean, when Bo gets back, I'm sure that'll be a golden opportunity probably to stick him in either the 2-hole or the cleanup spot, and then you got Springer wherever you'd want Springer. But how do you think John has handled? There's been some uproar. Like, just whenever you see George in the cleanup spot, it's just hard to look at. But how do you think he's handled that, and how going forward will they handle it, you think?
Yeah, so I think I'll at least start on the positive. I like the move putting IKF up there.
Me too,
I think that, you know what you're going to get from IKF. Is he going to have more multi-homer games? Probably not. But he makes a lot of contact. He has a lot of those winning plays. He advances runners. He does what you have to do. He's not going to strike out very often. So I like that move. Obviously, Springer in the cleanup spot is surprising to a lot of people. And I think it was surprising to me too. I look at these lineups now. Could you put Varsho in the cleanup spot, Schneider 5th, and Springer 6th 2 days ago against Ben Lively? You could have.
Yeah.
But I think, and I've heard you guys talk about this too, you can move guys down, but who are you putting up? They just don't have 6 guys going right now. They have 1 or 2, maybe 3. Vladdy had a big series, so he's kind of going. You have Horwitz going. But I think that I wouldn't probably pencil in Springer cleanup all the time, but at the same time, I'm not sure I would construct a lineup here that's going to squeeze 4.5 runs out of this. I just don't know how.
When you were there, did you have any idea why they put him in a cleanup spot? It's not because we've done everything else. Why not? It's not that, right?
Yeah, I think they still, have a lot of confidence in him.
Yeah.
And I think, it's more confidence than clearly a lot of people on the outside, especially a lot of fans from what you see online have. He has turned on more fastballs, but at the same time, the results have not really changed. And we all look at the batting average. The numbers are out there.
Yeah.
They made the comment they have some numbers that we don't have, and that's possible. But to a certain extent, the results are the numbers that matter the most. And so it surprised me. I wouldn't say that it didn't surprise me. It definitely did. I think having Turner going again helps, because now you have a guy that you feel a bit more confident in, but they've had about as little production from the cleanup spot as anyone in baseball, and they've thrown a lot of different guys in there. I'm not saying that I would put Springer in there, but I'm not sure that they have a great option, frankly, to throw in there.
Ben, I think Buck made this point during the telecast. It might have been Friday, but and Arden mentioned this as well in his article on Sportsnet.ca. I mean, they've got when Orelvis Martínez was up here, they were basically looking at 3 guys, Horwitz, Barger, Martinez, who were all playing positions they had just learned in like the last year and a half. Kevin kind of jumped on me a little bit because I referred to Martinez's error in his first game. But, it seems to me that like it's great that Spencer Horwitz has got it going right now. Davis Schneider has cooled off a bit. I just wonder if maybe we're not at the point now, though, where the gains you get offensively are marginal compared to the hit you're taking defensively when these guys are in the field. You know, I just and again, I don't pretend to know what else they do here. This isn't a problem of lineup construction. It's frankly a problem of roster construction. But I mean, if the pitching comes back to earth, which it's done right now, like you literally cannot afford. Not only can you not afford to give up a run if you're a pitcher, but you need maximum. You need the best defense you can possibly have in the field right now. I just don't know how they square that.
It's a really tough balance, I think, because they obviously need more offense out of the team, but they still probably with the lineup, like, again, they're not likely to squeeze 4.5, 5 runs a game out of this lineup the way we've seen it perform this year. So I do think
Varsho, Kiermaier, and Springer are your best defensive outfield.
For sure.
They are, right?
And they've played Schneider there a ton because they've chosen basically the bat of Schneider, and he's been solid in left field. You know, I think that there was the mix up on him and Varsho in left center in the Guardian series on the Naylor double, but we haven't seen much of that. You know, I think you look at that and that's pretty good. I think you look at Horwitz right now and he's done fine enough at second. I mean, he made a really good play. I forget if it was last game or 2 games ago when he dove up the middle. You know, I don't think he's the quickest guy over there at second. I do think he has a pretty good arm. And he showed that at first in the Guardian series as well. So I think you have to take Horwitz there too. But it does get tough. They committed 4 errors in one game in that series against the Red Sox. And they've committed some other errors over the last couple of games and probably even had some that, you know, I think maybe could have been errors, but weren't scored that way over the last couple of games. So it gets tough, especially when the pitching's in the spot that it is. The rotation had one of its toughest series, if not its toughest series, frankly, of the whole season. I mean, they didn't get 9 innings combined out of the 3 starters that they had going. And then the bullpen, mostly due to injury, but also inconsistencies in the spot that it's in right now. So it is hard. It's almost it's a double-edged sword because when they put their best offensive lineup out there, they're a little bit compromised. And it's something that I think you're more comfortable with if the season changes direction. You know, if things continue to go poorly, okay, you throw guys out there and they learn the position on the fly. It's a little bit harder to have guys learn positions on the fly while they're trying to still win baseball games. I'd agree with you there for sure.
Do you think they know what's going on with Danny at the plate?
I think they do. I think to a certain extent, we kind of have seen a lot of Danny Jansen. I don't know if it's like 1,500 at-bats or something that guys say, you know, it is. And, you know, I think he's not as poor a hitter as he's been over the last couple weeks and not as strong of a hitter probably as he was to start the year. You know, I think he gets into these zones where he's pulling everything and it's great, and then all of a sudden they pitch him away and he has to adjust a little bit. You know, maybe he's not adjusting as much or as quickly as he would have in the past because he was even better. Like, he was the best we've probably ever seen him for a couple weeks there. So I think that it's, you know, still just being a little bit, you want him to be pull happy, but you know, if there's 2 strikes and the pitch is outside, maybe adjusting a bit more, you know, more, you know, about hitting at that level than I do. But I think it's always for him about, you know, you want him to do what he's doing, but for everyone, you can't literally try and pull everything or you'll be in a tough spot.
Well, when you eat fastballs for breakfast, they stop feeding you fastballs for breakfast.
It's kind of like Schneider to a certain extent.
Absolutely. They start spinning it down away like you mentioned. That stuff thing.
Shifting focus a little bit, what did you make of the Guardians after seeing them? I keep waiting for them to fall back to earth, and maybe they won't.
Yeah, they are. That's a great baseball team.
It really is.
I really think that's a really good team. I think, you know, it's tough to talk about now given how the last week went, but that series when the Blue Jays picked up over them, albeit without Jose Ramirez, was probably bigger than we realized at the time, and now, you know, things have transpired how they have. But that's a team, when you look at the teams that have come out of the Central recently, and the Central's better than it has been in a while, that's a team that I think is much more threatening. They hit really well, and they have, you know, Stephen Kwan might hit 15 home runs this year and hit 375. Josh Naylor might hit 40. Jose Ramirez has been what he's been for a while, and he's still that way. You know, he's a rare guy who might lead your team in home runs, RBIs, and stolen bases. You know, Dalton Varsho might do the same, but you know, that's a really tough team with the best bullpen in baseball. I really think it's not just the numbers. When you look, they got all sorts of angles and all sorts of different guys. They're emergency guys, or they're guys that they hold for when they're up 7-1 and you load the bases in the ninth, could pitch in the back end of a lot of bullpens, and they still have like 3 guys on the injured list.
Yeah, that's a remarkable thing.
They get a starter because they've had some starters injured, obviously. They get a starter back, or they get a starter at the deadline. I'd give that team a shot to beat the Yankees or the Orioles.
How do you get them at home? That's the question, right? They're like 25 at night at some at home.
The best team in baseball.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of good things at home. So in the crowd was huge in Cleveland. So I'm sure that's going to help. But I still have doubts against even the Astros. The way the Astros are starting to play.
You know what?
Astros are a wild card. They're tough to pick.
It's hard.
They're tough to pick.
They really are. And the thing with the Astros is, unless their ownership is lying, which I don't think, the Astros are going to be buying. Like, they don't consider their window of opportunity closed.
Yeah, they're not good at losing.
No,
and they're really
they're not.
They're really good at the
not.
playoffs. I mean, frankly, when it happens 7 years in a row, it's not a mistake.
You got that kind of hitting too. What do you expect from Bassett? What's Bassett? 1.42 ERA in his last 3 starts. Jays are 5-1 in his starts when they score 4 or more. Now that last part I just read, I wouldn't count on that. But it's the 1.42 ERA in the last 3 starts. What have you seen different in his last 3 than, say, his last couple before that?
Yeah, funny thing, they're 0-3 in his last 3 starts as a team, which is he doesn't have. I don't think he has a single loss in those 3, but they're 0-3.
Yeah,
I really like, and this is the thing Chris LaRue talks about a lot. He's fitting in the sinker inside more to lefties now.
Yeah,
instead of it leaking over the plate. Where we saw the Guardians do some damage on pitches like that from Barrios recently. He gets it inside, and one thing that I looked at today that was interesting. It was pointed out to me. He's really leaned into the curveball. He's a lot less with the slider and less with the sweeper. And it's such a change of pace. I mean, these guys, you see guys like Jose Ramirez way out in front of a curveball like that, because 93, because he's actually dialing up a little bit into these days, 93, 94 to 68. No one else in baseball does that. He literally has the largest separation. So, he has to be fine. He has to be pretty perfect with his location a lot of the time, or he's really got to outthink you. And for the last, probably 4 or 5 starts, he's done a good job of that. He got into a bit of a groove, I think, against some weaker competition, but he's carried that over. I mean, he had the Brewers, he had the Guardians in that mix, so or he had Boston, not the Guardians in that mix. So I really like what he's done, and they stacked all these lefties against him. Boston did last time.
Yeah, there's 7 tonight, I think,
and he didn't have a problem. And
I think his pace is better too. When he's like, frog pace, it's like, man, if you're defending behind him, you're like, dude, let's go. Got 3. You really got 3 pitches. Pick one of the 3 and then start sprinkling in the other ones. Sometimes that's a hard watch. Okay, you got to sell confidence wise for me, Chad Green in 9th inning. Sell it to a Jays fan that when John comes out there, say a 1-run lead, middle of the order, the Red Sox are going to throw out there. Give me confidence that that's the right guy.
Certainly, I think that's the best you got. First of all, I think that's the best you got.
That's your sentence.
I think Chad Green is a good reliever. I think he's a good reliever.
Yeah.
I think we all know that if everyone was healthy,
it wouldn't be Chad.
It's option 3
Fair.
probably. And that's
sounded like Gibby there, bud. That would be a Gibby line.
That's no insult. It's no insult to Chad Green. I really do think he's a good reliever.
Yeah.
He's got a fastball that gets swings and misses. You want that late in games.
Sure.
And he's not. I don't think he's a guy that goes into a 9th inning and changes at all. I don't think he's nervous. He's pitched in a ton of big moments. He did at times for the Yankees due to injuries or poor performance from Chapman, save some games for them. So, I do think that that's not the spot for me in the bullpen that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah.
Getting there, I think, is more, because you're putting lots of guys. Like Brendan Little had a great run, and again, it's taking away nothing from him. They're putting him in 7th and 8th innings,
Pop.
middle of the order. Zach Pop and these guys, Little's pitched a dozen times in the majors. Pop has pitched more than him, but high leverage is not that common in his career. Same with Pearson. So they're really piecing it together, and this is when they need their starters the most, and you can't fault their starters.
With the 7 lefties, it's going to be Mays and Cabrera. That's what you're going to get a heavy dose of, right?
And Cabrera and Little have both gone 2 days in a row.
Right?
So maybe it's
comes
Richards. Maybe you throw Richards again. I don't know. Against
how are you going to use him when that start comes around? Where
that was my next question. Actually, Yariel Rodriguez is designated as a starter for that game. Any chance in your mind that they go with Bowden Francis, or are they going to run Yariel out there again?
I think they probably go with Yariel. I mean, Bowden's pitched pretty well recently. Like, I don't think you can ignore that. And I still think it was no earned runs for him in his last
just the
appearance.
walks. I think it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The first inning he came in didn't go well. I mean, walks were everyone was throwing him, and he and Yariel threw a ton of walks that inning between the two of them. But an error, I think, prevented him from getting out of that inning, at least with none of his own runs coming in. So I still think you look at the stuff of Yariel Rodriguez and the ceiling. And the fact that they're committed to Yariel for a long time going forward. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with the players playing out of position. If things keep going in this direction, Yariel is hugely important to them next year. Even if they want to retool, not spending money on the rotation and allowing, they get about $50 million off the books. If they can pump all of that into batting order and the cleanup hitter, you don't want to go out. Part of the problem is they've gone out and they've built a really good rotation, but they're spending a ton of money on it. It's hard to do that and finance a great batting order. It's just difficult to do unless, you have some of your homegrown guys, which they haven't had a ton of. So if they can have Yariel in that rotation next year consistently and actually built up to, 100-something after a full year, that opens up all sorts of possibilities. I think they don't look, and this is just me speculating, but like Bowden was pitching well. They could have kept him in the rotation. I don't think they look at Bowden as much of a future piece.
They're telling you, really.
He's not under control nearly as long at this point, and that's control is so much of the name of the game.
Just light some candles when Rodriguez is thrown.
No, Jeff's
send him to Double-A and
no.
Let him pitch that.
No, my whole point with Yariel Rodriguez is I agree with you. He's got to be there. He's got to be in the rotation. He's got to be in the rotation next year. But this is also the only year you can send him down to Triple-A
without his permission.
Without his permission. And
what's the other option?
You know what? Let's see what he does. If I've got another couple of starts and I'm getting 2 2/3 or 3 innings out of him, that's not doing him any good. I'd rather have him down in Triple-A, trying to put together 6 innings.
Maybe.
But hey, I didn't think we'd see Orelvis Martínez.
Yeah, they definitely have a blueprint on how to use their pitching. They figured that part of it out. It's the everyday guys that scoring runs. You mesh them two together and run into 2025. I said run into it. I didn't say back into it or, oops, I don't know what I'm doing into it. You run into it. You have a blueprint. Like you know now that the offense is not good enough. Like it's no khaki needs to walk up to us or come on this show and say, we figured it out. No, you have actually. It didn't work. So I think it'd be a little easier for him to.
I think is that your first khaki mention?
It
today?
is. If
I am mentioning internal improvements at spring next year, you can hit me over the head. Find the most, because they will need internal improvements certainly. But if that's I get what you're saying.
The core.
You
We've
fill
heard
out
that word. Yeah, can't hear core anymore.
If
can
I hear
we?
internal improvements and channels of communication.
Pockets.
And pockets. Those are 3 words I don't want to hear. Ben, thanks very much for doing this as always. Appreciate
thanks for
it.
having me, guys.
Buddy.
Yeah.
7:10 will be the first pitch tonight. Blair and Barker will be along following the game on Blue Jays.
Not long.
Well, it
It's
depends
a big
now.
hockey game.
Oh, there is? The Leafs playing?
What? Winnipeg.
Yeah,
Where
we'll
are
be
they at?
along. Never mind. They're on the same place the Leafs are right now. As a
Are
matter
they?
of fact. We'll be on following the game with Blue Jays talk. And, of course,
Watching
we'll be
Game
back
7?
here from 4 to 6 Eastern tomorrow on Sportsnet 590 Fan. And Sportsnet, enjoy the games tonight.